How y'all doing? This is Chris with Chris's Comments. Subject common ground on common sense, no matter what the subject. And this is actually going to feel something that's not really common ground. It's going to be probably a little bit more conspiracy theory. So we could call it Conspiracy Theory Tuesday. What we got on the news lately is a bunch of Texas representatives, politicians, political leaders, mostly Republican, small number of Democrats. They are all opposing China's trade of organs, body organs, be it kidneys, livers, whatever, a heart. They are opposing trade with China concerning organs that are usually used for transplants. And the reason for this is not really unsure. It's just that other than it's all being done mostly through the black market. It's not sanctioned. It's not legalized through the UN, the policies, United policies and such. They're just picking up. They're just looking for any buyers. China's just looking for any buyers, and selling them to anybody, and selling them, quick and underground and all this good stuff, which is a little alarming, because it's not so much the Chinese people as much as it is, once again, the Chinese Communist Party, the regime that's responsible for so many deaths out there. They're making a killing selling organs. Where are the organs coming from? There's a lot of forced organ donations coming out of China right now due to the Chinese Communist Party. We got a couple of doctors out there that are ratting them out and then having to go back into hiding again, or rather them going into hiding. So we're looking at, as far as, again, another group of Chinese citizens reporting what's going on, this time in the medical field. They're making reports, they're leaking information, and in a way it makes sense. I've already mentioned about them, killing people as far as a dam called the Three Gorges Dam. It was a dam that was built sometime back, and it was not fully structurally stable enough to withstand a large amount of water that would be flooding up. And it was actually done in the late 90s, early 2000s. Something that was just not supposed to, something that was easily predicted to collapse sometime in the 2010s, if not 2020s. But it turns out 2019 to 2020, it was already cracking, it was crumbling, and it eventually caved in last year in 2020. It collapsed, flooding all the villages and towns and ports that were along the river, which is called the Yangtze River. And the Yangtze River goes from, it goes several miles across. It goes several, hundreds of miles. And there's a lot of residences and stuff there. And when it flooded, it actually drowned an estimated 100,000 civilians or residences. Now, that's a lot of bodies. They should have been buried or cremated or whatever. But instead they were collected and nobody knows where to. Now that this report comes out, forced organ donations underground sellings, it doesn't take a lot to connect these dots that the CCP is authorizing this stuff using the deceased from something like a flooding out of the Yangtze River, when the Three Gorges Dam collapsed, and that right there would be a huge profit, especially in comparison to having to work disappearances in places like Hong Kong. Hong Kong is occupied now. There were tons of arrests. There were several people killed. So far, no burials, no giant cemeteries made. Nothing like that reported. So it's pretty obvious where those bodies went. There's a couple of people getting killed every now and then, fishermen to be more specific, out in the Philippine Islands area, where the CCP sends ships disguised as fishing vessels that are gunning down Philippine boats. So needless to say, there's a couple of people that obviously got collected in that. Now granted, there is no physical proof of this, much less to the next part that I was going to say. India, the border wars with India and China, a lot of people got killed over there too. All throughout these past couple of years up until today, up until this time, we are now at April 27th. The first quarter year just finished. We're in the middle of the second quarter of a year, and we've got this going on, and that's also not including the 100,000, I think it's hundreds of thousands of Uyghurs who were captive, jailed, enslaved, set up in work factories. Now that's a lot of people that were taken in, and there's a lot of crimes that were against humanity that were committed against them, leading up to murder. So where are those bodies? Where are their burials? Where's the documentations for any investigator to check to see that they were cremated, if they were cremated at all? So far, nothing like that has popped up. What has popped up, after all this death within the past 2 years, it caused by the Chinese Communist Party, whether it be foreigners or actual citizens of their own land, what is common is the fact that what is commonplace is the fact that now we've got China, or at least the Chinese Communist Party, making a killing off of organ donations to medical staff all over the world. And it's bizarre, but it's true. What's bizarre out of all of this at all is at first, it was just mind-blowing that Texas would be the ones to start a law into not accepting donations. For one, not only not accepting donations, but outlawing the donations of Chinese organs. It struck me bizarre at first, and I'm thinking, well, common sense says is that they're just following Trump's ban of everything trade with China, and the medical industry is not to profit off of that, or not to conduct business, because as we all know these days, most Republicans don't tend to anything concerning healthcare in the medical field. They're mostly about fuel and gas and oil, let's wage war against countries with oil in it and all this other stuff. So that was the first initial thing that came across my mind. Yeah, I see it. But again, these are also a few Democrats that have jumped on this bandwagon. And it struck me bizarre. This is going to be made into law. And then they're going to move the policy out of Texas to try to make it a U.S. federal policy and to influence the UN and all of the United Nations that are, that make the UN. So it's kind of a strange cause, but at the same time, for one, it makes sense. It's not profitable for anybody that doesn't take subsidies from hospitals in the medical field. Two, it is following the footsteps of a previous president who's saying, enough with playing us. And three, but this is a personal level, it's a bit scary, and it makes sense given the fact that, if you connect the dots, China came up with all of these organs. Right now, after so hundreds of thousands of people got killed by the Chinese Communist Party. Their own citizens, their own Chinese citizens, flooded, enslaved, killed through enslavement, killed through the working factories, killed after their whole island being captivated. Hong Kong. There's a lot of dead bodies and very few mass graves. So it isn't really that difficult to connect these dots. I'm hoping that, with a little bit of effort from our countries into maybe investigating all of this stuff, that it might help crack down on the criminal activity of underground organ selling, underground forced organ donations. I'm pretty sure there's probably some kind of DNA signature that can prove that the body parts and the organs came from China. Of course, this is all going to take time. I really don't see, as long as Texas is fronting this cause, I really don't see a problem with my state doing some kind of investigation, collecting some organs from them, or from, wherever, and then examining them to see as to whether or not they came from a certain part of China or whatever. Now, obviously, the ones that got flooded, they got killed by the flood, there's obviously certain particles and minerals or whatever that can be detected out of certain organs that got soaked up during the time that they got flooded. The Uyghurs are a regional people. They're off of a certain type of land, therefore a certain type of vegetation or certain type of ground agriculture that can show up in DNA or blood or plasma or whatever, wherever else I should say that it's conjured, not necessarily in one specific body part, but mostly the liver, maybe kidneys as well, but I'm not too sure about that. I'm not a doctor, so you can't quote me on that. But if there's any kind of detection to make, I mean, it also stands to wonder how Texas would be able to know this, if they've already done their exams or not, their laboratory testings and stuff, to know as to whether or not these were cut up victims of the CCP corruptive power. You know, I personally would like to know, but unfortunately, nobody's really looking into that. They're all still talking about the Chauvin case. They're bringing up every single shooting that has taken place, whether it was done by a cop or not. You know, and don't get me wrong, they still need to be tended to. But if you got some kind of some kind of global crime being committed as well, let's expose them too. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's, and it's a trip because this, again, it's just Texas Republicans and a couple of Democrats that are doing this taking a stand, while everybody else is pointing at Biden, saying, "Oh, everything he's doing sucks. It's a failure. You know, we need to stop this. It needs to be stopped right now." It's a trip that, nobody's jumping on this Texas bandwagon concerning the illegal sellings of organs through the CCP. I think that's pretty sad. And I think that seriously needs to be, I think all the BS and the political BS and the power influence and stuff needs to be put to a hold. And I say hold because it's not going to stop. But it needs to be put on a hold so that way they can tend to this particular crime that's going on. That really is just disgusting. It's very disgusting. So that's my spiel concerning this this case that I really, really have no idea as to whether or not it's true. I can only surmise, and I can only show you how I'm connecting these dots. I have no facts, and I have no... I don't know anybody on the inside or any kind of crap like that. It's just something that I'm looking at. I took a step back. I saw all this stuff that was going on. I see what's going on now, and it sort of filled in the blank to all of the stuff that was baffling me. It's like, what in the hell? Why? What in the world are they thinking? What's going on here? Well, eventually some answers do, some questions do get answered. And here's one of them. This is one of them. It's still just a conspiracy. I understand that. It's still just some rideshare driver's thoughts. I understand that also. As soon as I'm done with this, my break is over and I'm back to driving and tending to people and, welcome to my Uber. First time in San Antonio. You got to check this place and that place and this, back to the smiles. I understand all that. It's all good. But this segment is Chris's Comments, where I touch on the subject and I come down to common sense on common ground. And this fits. This all fits. All that murdering that was going on by the CCP. And all the what do you call it? Distractions by the people here that are getting all the Chinese people that are getting attacked here, because nobody's taking a step back to look at this stuff. Now, I'm not saying I'm the only one. I am obviously not the only one. But it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. If nobody stood up, out of all the places, if the Texas, my state, political leaders hadn't made a stand to oppose these organs up for sale, leading to an investigation that points out that those were forced organ donations to be put up for sale. You gotta think along these lines in order to come to a conclusion, in order to make this kind of report. forced organ donations. Why? Well, in my mind, it's all about the money. Religion is the tool, or belief. So, follow the money. Yeah, it turns out they're making a killing selling all these organs. And we believe it's okay just simply because they're so-called organ donors that are going to be going to good causes, to be reviving other people's, to be saving lives. So yeah, how was that overshadowed? How was that overlooked? Well, it's a good deed. Of course it's going to get overlooked. Nobody's interested in examining good deeds. They want to examine corruption. We want to examine the lies. But now we have a lie that's been revealed. Organ donations, yes. But forced organ donations. And now we're finding out it's a killing. They're banking big. Chinese Communist Party is banking big off these organ donations that are put up for sale from, well, where's the people that donated this? How in the world do they have this huge stock of organs? Well, you need the body to, you needed to come out of a dead body. Hopefully they were dead. And if you got a lot on stock, that means there's a lot of dead bodies. Well, has there been a lot of dead bodies in China? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Collected from Hong Kong, collected from India, collected from Uyghurs, where the Uyghurs live. I forgot the name of their province. And collected out of Chinese civilians themselves who were drowned, starved from gerrymandering. I haven't touched that subject yet because it's a huge complicated web, but to break it down to you in the short and simple, there were people forced out of their houses by way of either brush fires that were caused by the CCP or by upping the value of their land and forcing them out because they couldn't keep up with their mortgages or their taxes, if not combinations of both, along with other price gouging and money squeezing tactics, forcing the people who can't afford anymore to move out. You know, some of these people actually died. You know, there was a freeze. No differently than the kind that made it all the way down here to Texas in February. There was a freeze last year that killed quite a few Chinese people, civilians. And there was a drought. No differently than the kind over here that comes down here in Texas. It's just that we've got plenty of water supply. We've got clean water down here still. So we're hydrated like no problem. It's the closed off waters and restrictions over in China that the CCP have enforced, and then to top it all off with all the non-potable water that mixed in with the flood waters in the off of the Yangtze River. Okay, now I understand that that's just a portion of China. Okay, I understand that. It's just one strip in China that like covers a quarter of it, and it's again just a narrow piece. It doesn't even make it all the way to the ocean, I don't think. It goes into a lake, and it comes out of it, and it separates into two different rivers, and so it's a small portion. I understand that, but that flooding killed over 100,000 lives. That flooding took over 100,000 lives. That's a serious damage, and again, it was all under the watch of the CCP. So back to the subject of where all of this started. Yeah, my state right now is doing the right thing. As much as it's going to hurt a lot of people that need a donation, I understand that. But there are way more less frowned upon ways to ascertain an organ. Okay? There's way more civil and far less dirty methods than to go to a country, to an organization that sells organs out of its own country that they themselves killed. That's my spiel right there. Texas right now is doing a good thing with this waving a banner against the illegal donations. I hope other states get to join in, and honestly, I hope something good comes out of all of this effort, because it's pretty important. It's pretty important. I mean, it's a government funded. Slicing and dicing of corpses. All right, that's my spiel for today. That's my thoughts. Hope you all have a good one. Stay safe out there. Get vaccinated if you can. If you've already been, cool. Stay safe. We'll see y'all later. I got vaccinated also, feeling good. And mind clearing every day. The more knowledge I seek. So y'all take it easy. This is Chris with Chris's Comments, signing out.